Greetings, it's time for business. My name is Laban and let me take you shopping. Supermarkets, suppliers and other stakeholders of the retail sector met to discuss the issues ailing the sector and find a way of nurturing wholesale and retail in Kenya. Now, in coming up with the national trade policies, most speakers called for regulation of the sector and rules to protect all parties, while encouraging the government to relook at the low capping interest rates. My colleague Udhaifa Aden with more.
What ails the retail sector and how best can the government help? That is a question that stakeholders sought to answer on the second day of the Kenya Trade Week. The retail business is entangled in heavy debt, with two of the largest retail chains, Nakumatt and Uchumi, faced with product stockouts. Problems such as governance and discipline in management were cited as among the things that has led to the downfall of the once vibrant sector.
We don't have a retail training school. If you go to any university, any school of business, they have no course anywhere that teaches retail operations. So therefore, we have an industry running on no skills. It is based on experience and a few people who get it right.
Stakeholders also pointed to the role capping of interest rates has had in the eroding of the purchasing power of consumers.
We need to remove interest rate caps, because what is interest? What is credit? Credit is the oil in the economy. So what Treasury has done through interest rate caps is to throttle the oil in the economy, which is credit. When you actually have issues, for example, the interest capping, I can tell you the supermarket people are the people who will need most, because consumption has actually slumped. Even as we have the paying supermarkets, you can actually see the growth as has been projected, which used to grow at 6%, is now at 3.4%.
The Treasury promised to monitor the effects of the cap and take corrective measures.
Talks conclude on the second day of the Kenya Trade Week. Discussion now moves to what both retailers and suppliers want to be included in the national trade policy.
Supermarkets and suppliers clashed over the proposal to regulate the sector, even as the government insisted on going on with the plan.
We must agree that on this document again, there has to be continuous improvement, so that we can continually keep on checking and discussing with all the parties through the regulator to ensure that the prompt payment is respected by those who receive credit.
The retailers, on the other hand, disputed some of the proposals for the regulation, saying the move risks stifling the sector in the long run. They are particularly opposed to proposals to have them pay suppliers on delivery, a method they say cannot work in the supermarket business model.
Someone wants to keep in the market share. You have 11 variants of juices. Some juices, raspberry, what, and you want them in the shelf, and it has not sold. How do I pay?
Trade Principal Secretary Chris Kipto assured the retailers that the new regulations, which will be expanded for legislation in the next parliament, were not meant to stifle the sector. Udhaifa Aden, NTV.
Kenya's drought mitigation efforts have received a major boost after the African Development Bank, that's ADB, approved 100 million shillings emergency relief grant. Now, the country has been struggling to raise the 17 billion shillings it needs to effectively combat the drought because Kenya is not considered a priority country. The money is intended to bring relief to the affected populations in Kenya's drylands. The number of those currently affected by the drought countrywide is estimated at 3.2 million, with the number expected to hit 3.5 million by August this year. The drought has resulted in food spiking, going between 10 and 25% above their 5-year averages. Efforts to register the vulnerable group of 70-plus-year-olds for the cash transfer program are experiencing unique challenges now, which is also making it difficult to use technology to be efficient. This is according to the Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary, that's Madam Phyllis Kendiye, who also says that tough measures will be taken on caregivers swindling the old of their Inua Jamii monies.
The wrinkles their faces unashamedly wear slightly sag gracefully under the crowns of graying hair. By virtue of their age, the 70-plus-year-olds are beneficiaries of the government's cash transfer program Inua Jamii. Registration of the second phase of the program has kicked off, but it is already experiencing challenges, some of which are unique to the beneficiaries.
The thumb of all the persons wears off. So we're trying to use biometric, but it's not working. Then they are older, they don't have mobile phones. We could have used, Safaricom to use M-Pesa or any other, but then they don't see. You see, so we cannot use mobile phones, and it's a challenge because we cannot apply technology.
This raises concern on if some of the potential beneficiaries may fail to get registered by the August 31st deadline.
There are those people who will be approaching on a door-to-door basis so that we make sure we meet the target and so that we also do not leave anyone behind.
And it seems they don't want to be left behind. But there are more twists to the program's implementation. There are people who are dancing around the senior citizens' benefits. For instance, the young caregivers are accused of taking the monies from the old people they are taking care of.
Watoto wenye wanakuja alafu wanakuwa wakora, si ndio? Labda wanakula pesa yenu. Hiyo mtaiangalia, mtasaidiwa na local administration ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba hao wenye wanafanya hivyo lazima watolewe macho, si ndio? Wasirudi kufanya hiyo mambo.
The state says it will keep an eye on those exploiting the old folk, which will go to addressing the deeper challenge of the parallel abuse of integrity and vulnerability. At the moment, the government is paying just slightly above 3,000 shillings per person per month against a global standard of 9,000 shillings. Dan Mwangi, NTV Business.
Kenya's energy financing debt stands at between 300 to 400 billion shillings. That's the average amount needed if Kenya were to meet all its power infrastructure funding obligations. While most of these funds, though, are not locally sourced, hence subject to international dollar fluctuations, that's adding up to the cost of electricity to you, the consumer. The Energy Regulatory Authority, that's ERC, has launched a research to unlock the opportunity for local funding of electricity projects at a cost of about 20 million shillings. The study hopes to draw clear plans on how ERC can unlock Kenya's potential in funding projects and reduce the cost of electricity through cheaper sources of financing.
Investors actually are comfortable investing in local currency in Kenya. That's not a new phenomenon. The question is, can that actually be able to transfer into the power sector and particularly in infrastructure?
You find that the shilling has even depreciated more than 2 times. So if our peers were denominated in shillings, it means that we will be paying the generators half the cost.
What we are trying to do here today is to limit, or if you want, to reduce that fluctuation, and therefore create a stable tariff for the customer.
So question to you, are you a pawpaw farmer? Well, if yes, what's your yield per tree? And do you know that there is a new variety that yields 10 times more than the varieties found locally? Well, that's a new variety sourced from Cuba and has been on trials for the last 3 years. And farmers in West Pokot County have started growing it. My colleague Gabriel Kudaka with the details.
A pawpaw farmer goes about inspecting his fruits. Most residents of Masol region of West Pokot County are generally pastoralists, but some are gradually shifting to horticulture farming after sensitization by Food and Agriculture Organization in collaboration with the county government of West Pokot. Among the crops planted in this region are green grams, watermelons, maize, and the recently introduced pawpaw variety known as Maradol.
I was impressed by the production, myself as an agronomist, of this Maradol in this environment. Because of the fertility of the soil, of course, because of the heat, that is the perfect climate for the papaya. What they need is water.
The pawpaw variety was first planted on trial basis 3 years ago, and today some farmers in Sebit and Ortum have embraced it.
Tunapenda kuuza papaya kutoka Juba na iko na market na iko na bei ya juu, watu wanapenda kununua sana.
Experts say that production of this particular variety starts declining after 3 years, hence the need to cut and replace them. Some seeds were taken to Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization in Baringo for further trials.
Male and female flower, they are together. So in one flower there is a male part and female part. So the production of fruits will be very high.
The project managers are providing farmers with water tanks and generators.
Wizi wa mifuko imepungua kwa sababu vijana wengi pia wamepata elimu kuhusu ukusaji wa mimea.
Gabriel Kudaka, NTV, West Pokot County.
Have you ever tabulated how much you pay your bank in account maintenance fees at the end of every year? Well, if you hold a current account with Standard Chartered Bank, you pay the highest fees. This is according to a newly released financial sector deepening report, FCT Kenya report. The report sampled 11 top banks in the country and found that Standard charges the highest at 13,460 shillings annually, while the cooperative bank charges at least 3,629 shillings every year. So I know you want more details on that story, and of course that will be the lead story in tomorrow's copy of the Business Daily. That's right on your screens right now, where we'll just give a focus on that FSCD report that looks at 11 banks that are sampled and how your fees compare to other banks. Be sure to grab your copy of the Business Daily tomorrow. And that's it for business news. My name is Laban. Stay tuned. My colleagues Mark and Smriti will be back with a lot more.